What is your perspective on how a young marketer can like best develop themselves? Have you found useful development through coursework, or is it mostly like I just have something to do and I do it and I learn and I see what happens? Where do you fall on that?
Yeah, really good question. So I maybe I'll kind of tell like my journey, and then there are things that I've kind of picked up, I think, over the years that might be helpful. So I actually dropped out of university. I ended up originally my plan was graduate high school, go to university. I was a football player, and I actually had a scholarship to a university here in Canada. And my plan was to go to do my undergrad in either like economics or political science and go to law school. That was like the thing. It was like do that. I ended up dropping out. Long story short, I was there for about a month. I dropped out. I was in a bad car accident. That's another talk show. But what I ended up doing was I ended up going back and taking a certificate course through Simon Fraser University here in Vancouver. And then I took another online certificate course through Syracuse University in the US. And the SFU course was in digital communications, and the Syracuse course was in advanced social media strategy. And so my kind of approach was I don't think for marketing or for business, you don't necessarily have to have a business degree to be successful. But I did realize that certification was valuable. It's valuable for two reasons. One, it's on your resume, they can't take it away. And it's good to like brand yourself and get certified. That's a good like personal brand and like professional strategy is get certified. And then the second thing is you get to meet people in school who are interesting and like maybe collaborate with them in the future. And then the third thing is like hopefully you actually learn something from the curriculum, right? So I think that was kind of like the piece. So I ended up doing those two courses, and the thought process behind it was I didn't think that doing a 4-year degree, Bachelor of Commerce, Bachelor of Business Administration, whatever, made sense. But what did make sense was this idea of micro certification. So if I can get digital communications here and social media strategy here, and I actually did another course at UBC in web analytics, like learn web analytics here. And if I could kind of build my own curriculum that I think would be relevant for the digital marketing space as I'm reading and learning more about it, that would be a valuable thing because I could kind of have different areas in that thing. I'm kind of padding my resume to be like, look at this stuff. And I think we've seen the rise in this idea of micro certifications. Google's kind of rolled that out. We've seen, these kind of boot camp type things, like whether it's learn to code or 3-month intensive, get certified in digital marketing, whatever. You're starting to see this with Scott Galloway's company Section 4, where you're able to kind of get like an MBA education for, $80 a month instead of, 10 grand or a course, whatever it is. So
Mm-hmm.
I think this concept of micro certifications is really, really smart. And yeah, I'm envious of kids coming out of high school now that can do that. If they're like, hey, I want to be a UX or a UI designer, there's a course you can take that's, 3 months, 6 months, or a year, and it's under $10,000 instead of being like, well, I got to go do my degree for 50 grand in the US or however much it costs now. It's going to take me 4 years. The first two and a half, 3 years are going to be kind of general and like not really applicable, but like got to get a piece of paper. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like the first piece is I think that certification makes sense. And I think we're very, very fortunate to have a broad range of different products there that are starting to grow. The second thing is doing the work and getting your hands dirty and kind of being obsessive about it. And so when I was working as a video editor at Arc'teryx, I knew that I wanted to go into digital marketing. So I was doing my video stuff, but I also started up accounts, dummy accounts, to practice posting stuff. And when I say practice posting stuff, what I mean by that is I'm not sitting there being like, this is how you write a post. It was more so like, how can I optimize the video that I'm making so that it looks great natively on Facebook or looks great natively on Instagram? When Instagram introduced the swipe up, like, could I have a cool animation there that just felt like natively part of the platform? Right. And so like, okay, when you're on your phone and you're swiping up, wouldn't it be cool if there was an animation right where that thumb thing was? So like running tests. And that was my first creative brain. But then also I'd be looking at who are the leaders in the space. So, okay, I'd read an article about how Nike is doing this new cutting edge thing. Well, how's that working for them? I'd dig into it, see how many comments they're getting. Like I would obsess over it like a maniac. And I would also publish things to these pages that had no followers just to see like, what would that look like? What were the mechanics of that? So that when my time came to like run an account, I wasn't like, well, shit, how do I post on Instagram? I've never done this before. So I think like that was another part of it, which like, it's not sexy. And I think like you can do that now in public, right? Like there are so many people who have side projects they build. Oh, this is my themed Instagram account where I post food pictures, or
Mm-hmm.
here's my blog about this or this. So I think back then I just was like, I just wanted to learn the raw technical mechanics of it, so that I could add value during my day job. And then like I just obsessed over it, read a ton, and kind of went from there. And I guess that's kind of like the third piece in terms of education is reading and talking to people. So I was very unapologetic in going out and wanting to meet people to learn about what they do, right? Like when I was 20 or 21, social media manager was like a relatively new title. So I would like message these people and be like, hey, I want to become a social media manager. Can I just I'll buy you a coffee and let me ask you some questions. That was literally it. And like, did it, and I actually had thoughtful questions. I wasn't like, hey, can I buy you a coffee? And they're like, yeah, sure, what? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I actually had things that I wanted to talk about and learn about, or share things that I've been reading or whatever. But I think those three things were really, really helpful in that time and kind of helped me make up and compensate for the fact that I didn't have a degree. So yeah, it was just one of those things where that was the strategy early on. And then how that has progressed over time is this concept of continuously learning and reading. That's how you stay up to date. When things are changing, you just need to read a ton. So I spend a lot of my time reading. When I was at the brand side, I do that, and that's what I do now.